Detroit Lions fans, man, I've got a banger of a video for you today. Dan Campbell just made the boldest move of his coaching career yet. John Morton is out as the play caller. Dan Campbell is in. And what happened next, or just a few days ago against Washington, was nothing short of explosive. But here's what nobody's talking about, and we're going to get into that right now. All right, what's up, Lions Nation? I'm Will Rock here with Rockhound Detroit Lions, and if you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button right now, and I'm going to break down one of the biggest stories in the Detroit Lions football era here in 2025, and no one's talking about it. So let's get this channel up over 13K, over 140 now subscribers in the last 24 hours. I know you can do it. You can help us out. I appreciate each and every single one of you. From the bottom of my heart, man, you guys are what makes this channel tick. So what am I talking about? Dan Campbell. He just took over the play calling against Washington, and the results were insane. We're talking a season-high 546 yards, 44 points, and a statement win that this offense is about to go nuclear if Dan Campbell continues to call the plays. So let's get into it, right? Here's all the facts, the stats, and all the glorious information that I prepared for you today. We are going to roll into a video of Dan Campbell's words himself and what he says the future holds at offensive coordinator. So let me kind of set the stage. This didn't really happen overnight, right? This was building for weeks. We had an inept offense performance against the Green Bay Packers. We did not play well against the Vikings, offensive or defensively, but we should have been in each game to win. We really should have. Against the Chiefs, again, we had to overcome a lot of things that maybe we just couldn't, right? It's kind of hard to go up against the refs too and have two opponents, but we didn't make things easier on ourselves. And John Morton just didn't capitalize. He was not utilizing the offensive capability that sits right in front of him, right? All of these guys that are on this squad, he has plenty of weapons to use, and he was barely using half. So after the Lions' Week 9 loss to Minnesota, the offense was in a rut. You could feel it, you could see it, you could smell it. It was not looking good. So let me give you the numbers that forced Dan Campbell's hands. The offensive struggles were 65 rushing yards against the Vikings, the 7th lowest rushing total of the entire Dan Campbell era back to 2021, 21.7 points per game average over the previous 3 contests, 0 rhythm, 0 flow, 0 identity. John Morton was calling plays, and it just wasn't working. The offense looked stagnant, predictable, and way out of sync, and Dan Campbell mentioned that himself. But here's what Dan Campbell said right after the Vikings loss, and I believe that a lot of this is key. It was kind of setting the stage to where we are today, but here's his quote. He says, yeah, I mean, look, I know this. It's something where, okay, man, you go into the bye and you look at a few things, and then we make a couple of tweaks and come out and you're like, eh. So I don't know if concern is the right word, but we got to clean it up. We got to find the right balance there to help us convert. We probably got to do a couple of things a little different. Well, what was my translation after that game on Monday morning? Well, I simply said that Dan Campbell knew that changes were coming. It's not something that he was pondering in the last 12 hours. It's something that he's probably been battling with for 3 or 4 weeks, probably since the Chiefs game, honestly. Campbell knew this was happening. He just wasn't ready to say it publicly just yet. You fast forward to this Washington game. Again, he makes the call. He's taking over play calling duties. John Morton is still on the staff, but he's no longer calling the shots. And what happened next? Well, pure offensive domination. Let me paint you a picture of what Dan Campbell's play calling looked like in his debut. I know I've already given you the numbers once, but I'm going to give it to you again. 546 total yards, season high. 44 points scored, most productive offense output in weeks. Scored on every single drive, but the final possession of the kneel down for victory formation. Jahmyr Gibbs, what did he have? 190 all-purpose yards, over 140 on the ground, like 70, 80 through the air. I mean, incredible game. David Montgomery, 15 touches. Jahmyr Gibbs, 15 touches. How about Jamison Williams being the leading receiver for the first time this season, scoring a touchdown, over 100 yards on the day? But let me say it again. The Lions scored on every single drive. That's not just good play calling. That's elite play calling. What changed? Here's what changed. The aggressive mentality of Dan Campbell's bite the kneecaps philosophy, right? Full display. 4th down attempts, check. 2 for 2. Downfield shots, check. This was the Dan Campbell that we know and love. This was Ben Johnson 2.0, of his offense that had us in a rhythm, right? The second biggest thing, we're back in rhythm. There was tempo. There was flow to this offense. It operated with better rhythm and tempo than we've seen all season. Well, maybe since the Bears game. But they were keeping Washington's defense off balance. They couldn't do anything to stop us. We moved fast. We executed with tempo at a high level. Third thing, the personnel usage totally changed. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Sam Laporta, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, all of them made significant contributions in this game, something that we haven't seen in several weeks. Dan Campbell was getting the ball to his playmakers in space, letting them do what they do best, which is build off of the yak. Some of the largest yak performances of the season for Jamison Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs. The fourth thing, which is our identity, it's our bread and butter. You've heard Dan say it. Play, action, passing. You run to set up the play pass. And if you can set up the play pass, it counters the run. Effectiveness, Dan Campbell's commitment to the run set up the devastating play action passing that absolutely torched Washington's secondary. This is what the Lions do well. This is what the offense is supposed to look like. And finally, the fifth thing, red zone execution. The Lions finished drives with touchdowns instead of settling only for field goals. That's the difference between a good offense and an elite offense. Yes, we did kick a field goal under the red zone. I probably wouldn't have, but Dan Campbell wanted to win this game, and he was not going to go away miscalculating a decision and having to pay for it later. In Dan Campbell's own words after the game, here's what he had said. Let's try something a little bit different. Look, I know what I want to do. I know how I want to do it. When you're the head coach and you know how you want it to look, it's one thing to kind of say how you want it to look, but it's hard to crawl into my head. I just don't know I have a good feel, or I just know I have a good feel of our players, and I know what we're capable of. That right there tells you everything, right? Dan Campbell couldn't get Morton to execute his vision. So he took matters into his own hands, and the results, well, undeniable. Dan Campbell's commitment the rest of the season. What is it? Where is it going from here? That's probably the biggest question that everyone's wondering, and it hasn't been answered. Or has it? Well, it has. And now here's the big news that is about to drop. Dan Campbell has now confirmed he will continue to be calling plays for the remainder of the 2025 season. This isn't a one-game experiment. This isn't a temporary fix. This is the new reality for your 2025 Detroit Lions. Dan Campbell has essentially said, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm the head coach. I know this offense better than anyone else, and I'm taking full control. Well, let's listen to Dan Campbell and where he mentions exactly this. And you have to pay attention to the nuance of the question that is going to be asked of Dan Campbell and how he answered it.
Talking to Lions head coach Dan Campbell. Dan, you and your reading glasses were the talk of the city on Sunday. Calling plays, is it like riding a bike, and is it something you plan on doing for the foreseeable future here?
Yeah, I joke in the fact, I swear I can see like an eagle from a mile away. But you put it about a foot in front of me and I might as well be blind. I'm sure we can all can relate to that. But some of it is, yeah, I mean, there's a feel to it. Look, it felt right. There's things I got to clean up, but it felt, I guess, that's the closest thing. There is a little bit feels like it's riding a bike, which is a good thing. And it helps when you got good players, right? And it helps when you got a quarterback like mine. It helps when you have a staff like I have, because they make it all right. They help the flow of everything. So that was big. And yeah, I mean, I do. My plan is to keep calling this, and I got to get better. We got to get better as a team, and we got a big challenge this week.
You say it's collaborative. If you could take people inside that world just a little bit, without revealing too much, of course. You guys get a first down, then what's that input like? Who are you hearing from, and what all needs to get juggled before you relay a play in?
Well, I mean, look, so much of it, you're always getting input on down and distance and hash. Even though you're watching the game, you're also you're on to the next play and the play after that to the next play after that. You have to stay 2 or 3 plays ahead. And then inside of that, you also have to know the contingency of, all right, I'm 3 plays ahead, but then what if there is a TFL? Now you got to play 3 plays ahead of that if you get a loss or if something happens, or So you're kind of trying to juggle that and play that, and so you're always getting somebody who gets you down in distance. You got to get personnel in. And then the same token, depending on, all right, we just earned a first down, they're telling you what your own stats are. Here's what you've done. Here's what the defense has done to you on the same situation for this game. And so a lot of it is in-game, okay, these are the adjustments that are going on during the game. We have a good idea going in what they're giving us, right? That's why you build the plan the way you do. And so there's just all those little things. A lot of it is, man, you go, and then maybe start asking for input. Like you get somewhere, okay, we're second, hey, Johnny, what do you got here? Hey, Hank, what do you got here? And then sometimes you just go with your gut between the two plays that were given to you, and so, or you already know the call.
Speaking of input, when you made the decision, was there any player involvement, like a players' council? Any players came to you and said, we think we need to make a change, or was this just you on your own saying it's time?
Yeah, no, nothing like that happened. It was just me.
What would you say, how'd you describe your connection with Jared Goff? Because everybody focuses on play caller and quarterback and how important that relationship is. How in sync are you guys?
It's very tight, and it's very strong. It's very tight. I think we see the game very much the same way, and it's really good, man.
You guys and other, offensive coordinators around the league, it's kind of a broad question, but a lot of times the first drive of games are scripted, so to speak. You know what you're going to do. How come is there a way to script other portions of the game? Obviously, if you're backed in at your own inside your own 10-yard line, you have to go off script. But is there ever a situation, all right, here's what we're going to do in the first drive. This is this script, and we have another script for drive 2. Does that ever happen, or is it just you fly by the seat of your pants once the game gets going after the first drive?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is you just go with the flow after that. I think that's what you're getting in your thoughts for the second, but when you go into those games, you're walking through those plays. Here's, guys, this is what we're going to do. Yes, it is scripted for the most part. Now, if we get off of what you hope is in the plan of what you're doing, we're going to continue to gain yards. So these are the plays we're going to play, and blah, blah, blah. And so you walk through those, but you don't walk through another segment of them. We've done here, Ben used to script second half plays. Now we didn't walk through those, but they had those. Like, all right, when we come out second half, here's the 6 plays that we're going. There's 7 plays. And that was back when we were having those struggles coming out at halftime 2 years ago. So we started doing that and a little bit, and so yes, look, you can do it any way you want to do it. But I think the big thing is, it's hard to say, okay, guys, we're gonna go through these plays here. We're gonna walk through these opening. Okay, hey, now after that, in the second series, all goes right. We're gonna walk through these plays, and then at some point, it's like, well, wait, that's what all practice was about. We just went through all these plays, man. Preparing for the game. So, but you can do it any way you want, Stoney.
So you heard it, right? What does this mean now for Johnny Morton? His future with the organization is now in serious doubt. Here's what Dan Campbell was asked. He was asked a couple of things. And number one, it was, when did the decision happen to call plays? He said it was, pretty much right after the game. But we had spoke about this yesterday on the morning show. Did the players come to Dan and say, hey, there was a problem? And the answer was no. He made this decision on his own, which, again, I think is a paramount decision. Obviously, it's something that he needs to do for himself. Maybe paramount's the wrong word, but the fact that they did or didn't, we probably will never know. I don't think Dan Campbell would ever throw his players under the bus or pit the players against John Morton. So whether there was conversations or not, we'll just kind of leave that up to imagination. But then he was asked, about his relationship with Jared Goff, and you could hear just how emotional Dan was getting at saying how important, and how incredible that relationship is. Dan absolutely loves his players, man, and he does not want these guys to fail. He doesn't want these guys to fail because of his decisions or his coaching moves or the guys, the coaches that he brings in. And that is why Dan Campbell is doing this. But when he was asked, is this something that they were going to do for the future? Is this something that Dan was going to continue to do? He deflected, right? He started talking about something else. And at the very end of answering that question, he says, and yeah, I do. I am. He's going to be, and now it's paraphrased, that he's going to be calling plays for the rest of the season. For at least right now. That's what Dan Campbell is telling us. John Morton's job is in serious doubt. I don't think that that's a secret. I think everybody understands that. He's still on the staff. His primary responsibility was stripped away of calling plays. Don't be surprised when the Lions are looking to 2026 for a new offensive coordinator. We've already laid out Brian Daboll. I'm going to talk about Hank Fraley today. We're also going to be getting into Scotty Montgomery. Those are the three lead horses for me, and there's one very clear winner right now. And I believe that's Hank Fraley, but I'm not stepping away from Scotty Montgomery totally. But I do believe that Hank Fraley has the makeup, and after everything that I prepared to talk about with Hank Fraley, I think that you're going to like the pick too. But for this offense, man, this is huge. Dan Campbell's play calling has produced immediate results. If he can sustain this level of production, the Lions offense could be the most dangerous in the NFL down the stretch, the most important stretch where we need to be playing the best football we can into January. For the Super Bowl run, the Lions are right now, they're 6-3. They're in a perceived championship window. Dan Campbell taking over play calling could be the difference between a playoff appearance, not just a win, but even making it to the playoffs, and a Super Bowl championship. Could you imagine for a moment that Dan Campbell takes over plays and runs this team to the Super Bowl and brings home the Lombardi? Oh, that statue will be built within 2 years. I guarantee it. It'll be right next to Barry Sanders. This is a head coach who's willing to make all the bold decisions, take the risks. Whatever he needs to do, he's going to do. That's the kind of leadership that will win championships in Detroit. Sitting atop the NFC now by default, like I'm not going to get overly excited about one game. And yeah, they just got more dangerous. But I want to hear from you. My question, number one, would be, do you think that Dan Campbell should continue calling plays for the rest of the season? Or should he get it back to John Morton after he shows Johnny what needs to be done? These are the plays that we need to call. This is the order and the rhythm and that they need to be called in. Maybe Johnny didn't do enough tape review. So that's my first question. Question number two, would love to know in the comments below. If the Lions move on from Johnny Morton in the offseason, I think it's going to happen. Who should they hire as the next offensive coordinator? Is it Brian Daboll? Is it Hank Fraley? Is it Scotty Montgomery? Or is it somebody else? I don't know about you, but I feel pretty comfortable with the internal hire. We've seen just how well that has worked out for Calvin Shepard, and Hank Fraley has been with this team for 8 seasons. He's been coaching for 13 plus years. He has 10 years of playing center at an elite level. And when I get into the next segment on Hank Fraley, you're going to hear how impressive this man is. So drop your answers in the comments below. I'm reading every single one, and I'm going to respond to every single one that has the best take of the day, and I'll be highlighting it later this week. Here's my take. Dan Campbell calling plays is the best thing that could have happened to this offense. He knows his players, he knows his system, and he's not afraid to be aggressive. If he can sustain this level of production, the Lions are absolutely going to the Super Bowl. Mark my words today on November 12th, 2025. They will be going to a Super Bowl this season as long as Dan Campbell can sustain. That's the story. Lions Nation. Dan Campbell took control of the offense exploded. And this team just became even more dangerous. I think that those are the few things that we need to grasp in this moment. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button right now, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you never miss a video or a live stream. We're covering the Lions now through the Super Bowl run each and every day, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on the Rise and Grind Morning Show. And of course, you get your videos sprinkled throughout the 365 days we're doing this. And you don't want to miss a second of it. I'm Will Rock. This is Rockdown Detroit Lions. Let's go One Pride, baby. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
Pressured by